Hi everybody, it's Andy, and welcome again to my office in Los Altos, California. I'm an attorney and licensed to practice law in California as well as New York. In this video, I'm going to talk about California's small estate affidavit procedure. Now, if you're looking at a video like this, you probably are in a situation where, for instance, somebody has passed away, or you've been approached by somebody saying, "Hey, my relative passed away," etc., and you're wondering whether or not the small estate affidavit procedure can work in your particular situation. So, for those of you who don't know, I take that back. I'll start from the very, very beginning. So when somebody passes away, either by natural causes or by accident, a victim of violent crime, etc., they generally will have to have their affairs wound up, I guess. So, for instance, they have to have, who gets their stuff, that has to get decided. Any debts that they had, at the time of their death, those have to get paid off, hopefully. There's a lot of stuff, like, the probate process in the U.S. is designed to handle that. Maybe you've had to participate in that where maybe your parents passed away, your grandparents passed away, something like that. If you have not participated in it yourself, hopefully you've seen a lot of TV shows or movies or something where there's like a scene where somebody's passed away and all these relatives gather, they're all long-faced and dressed in black and stuff, in the lawyer's office for the lawyer to kind of go over the will and read it out to them and so on. That's kind of the basic idea that, something has to get done, a lot of work has to get done when somebody passes away. So secondary to that, however, there are many different types of processes that can happen when somebody passes away, depending on, for instance, what they leave behind, what property they leave behind, how much it's worth, and so on. There could be something done called a summary administration. I'm going to write that over here. Summary administration or summary proceeding. As best as I know, I haven't checked every state, every country, for example. In most states, possibly in every state in the U.S., there is a summary administration proceeding if somebody dies and leaves stuff worth below a certain threshold value. So in California, that threshold value is $150,000. So if somebody passes away, they had some stuff, but they didn't have a whole lot of stuff. It's possible that you can basically do their probate through what's called a summary administration, a summary proceeding. That is beneficial because it's cheaper, faster, doesn't go through court at all. So summary administration applies in some situations, but again, like I said, it applies in situations where the person who passed away left below a certain dollar value worth of stuff. In California, it depends on whether or not the decedent left real estate also, like if they own real estate. If they did, you might not be able to use summary administration at all, for instance. So that's kind of the background. Summary administration, particularly in the San Francisco Bay Area where I am, a lot of times people, can't afford real estate at all, so all they have is basically non-real property, personal property for the lawyers out there. Because of that, it is actually quite possible for somebody to die leaving less than $150,000. That's the threshold value in California. So also, obviously, if you have somebody who is indigent or somebody who's homeless or somebody who's kind of, borderline poverty, for example, it is quite possible that they might pass away leaving less than $150,000 worth of stuff also. So $150,000, I guess, no matter how you sort of slice it, that is the magic number in California. In some cases, it's actually quite easy to determine whether or not somebody is, whether or not their estate is worth $150,000 or not. In some instances, for instance, even under the most optimistic math, it's not even close. Like, there is no way at all this person's estate is worth anywhere near $150,000. In those cases, it's actually very easy to just use the small estate affidavit process. If you have a situation in California where the person's estate is close, in other words, like, you're not quite sure, do they qualify or not? There are rules about what goes into the $150,000, like what's counted, what's not. I am not going to go over those rules in this video because they're kind of, they're kind of involved, to be honest. They are all in the probate code, however, so it's something where, that information can be obtained if you have a situation, basically, where the $150,000 value, like, that's cutting it kind of close. Maybe you fall, under 150, maybe you fall over 150. It really depends. But Yeah, so that's the background. $150,000 gross estate value of the decedent. That's the kind of magic figure, I suppose. So, assuming all of that was helpful, all of that made sense, the question then becomes: if your particular decedent, your deceased person, if their estate really is less than $150,000, and it's your job, let's say that you're the surviving son, the surviving daughter. If you're the only surviving family member, let's say, and you want to do a summary administration, a small estate affidavit procedure, in California, how do you actually do it? So the California probate code that's actually going to be important here is probate code section, there's actually two of them. One is going to be more important than the other, mainly because the second one is much longer. It's much more substantive. The first one's fairly short, it's like this. So anyway, so the first probate code section, the kind of the shorter one, is probate code section 13100, which I'll write over here and also link down below for you. 13100 is the shorter one. It gives a little bit of background, but not a whole lot. The one that you're probably going to be more interested in is the actual code section that has the affidavit language in it. And that one actually is probate code section 13101, also linked down below and written here. But the basic idea of the small estate affidavit procedure is essentially just two things. So the first is you have to wait 40 days. So it's 40 calendar days from the day that the person has passed away. And number two, you have to get a death certificate rather from the county in which the person passed away in. I'm not sure how they look in other parts of the U.S. or other parts of the world. In California, the death certificate's like an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper, and it's, I want to say, pink with blue letters, and it describes the person's name, their birth date, their gender, what they passed away of, what their parents' names were, where they were born, all that stuff. But yeah, it's the kind of official way to kind of prove that somebody really did pass away. So I guess I said two, so forgive me, it's actually three things. So you have to wait 40 days, you have to get the death certificate, and then you have to take the affidavit language in section 13101, fill it out, sign it, and so on. And you can basically take those two documents, the affidavit as well as a death certificate, you take it to the bank, for example, if you're trying to get a bank account, you take it to the brokerage house, etc. You take it to whoever has the personal property you are trying to obtain. And yeah, like basically most banks, every bank that I've dealt with, every financial institution I've dealt with, generally is pretty familiar with these. Like, it's actually fairly common for somebody to pass away suddenly and they did not kind of plan for it. So the small estate affidavit procedure, I would be personally kind of surprised if the bank or other institution you're dealing with has no idea what to do. Like, if this is the first time they've ever seen it, I'd be a little surprised, suspicious. So yeah, hopefully that made sense. A lot of you, or some of you hopefully, might be wondering, okay, what happens if the person passed away leaving real property? In other words, a house, a building, land, etc. Under probate code section 13115 in California, the small estate affidavit procedure that I just described, using the language in probate code section 13101, that language in 13101 cannot be used to transfer real property. Title to real property cannot be transferred that way. That's what 13115 says. Yeah. So I will hopefully at some point put out some companion videos to this one. If you actually have a situation where there is real estate involved, but it's fairly minor, let's say, or sorry, let me back up. If you have a small estate affidavit situation that involves real estate also, there are court cases you can file, types of court cases you can file. One of them is called a petition to determine succession to real property. That's a mouthful. I'm going to write that over here. Hopefully I can fit all that in the screen right here. But petition to determine succession to real property. You basically do that, if you have a small estate situation, but one of the items happens to be real estate. So the probate code for that, if you're interested, is 13150, probate code section 13150. If you're looking at the judicial council form, that's actually form DE 310. I am going to write that over here, or actually I'll write that down here, and then I'll play another video that I have about how to get judicial council forms. But DE 310 is how you do a petition to determine succession to real property. If you have a situation where the real property involved is really minor, in other words, it's only worth a couple $1,000s, let's say, the kind of magic number is $50,000. If you have real estate worth that or less, you can do something called an affidavit regarding property of small value. I got that out finally. Okay, I'll write that here also. That's form Judicial Council Form DE 305. Right, I'll hopefully fit that down here. DE 305, and if you're interested in that, that's Probate Code Section 13200. Yeah. So anyway, hopefully all of that made sense. The small estate affidavit procedure, like I said, it's a way of doing a summary administration if somebody dies and their estate is actually fairly simple. There is a way, in California at least, to bypass the formal probate proceeding. There's a way to bypass court, actually. The small estate affidavit procedure I described under Probate Code 13101 does not go through courts at all in California. Yeah, a lot of times people think that it does, but if you can qualify under the small estate affidavit procedure in California, it actually is quite beneficial. The one thing would be like, if you don't have, if the decedent's estate really does have real estate in it, depending on the value of the real estate, you're going to have to file a court case, but you file either the petition to determine succession to real property or affidavit regarding property of small value, one of the two. Yeah, but if your decedent's estate was worth less than $150,000, had no real property in it, then it's something where you could hopefully just do a small estate affidavit procedure and just be done with it. Yeah, so it's actually not terribly complicated. This Probate Code Section 13101 is the language that you actually need. So yeah. Anyway, hopefully that made sense. Go ahead and comment, share, like, subscribe, rewatch this video, tell your friends, etc. Shameless plug. So anyway, but go ahead and comment, share, like, subscribe, etc. And hopefully this video helps you guys out. Until then, I will talk to you guys next time. Thanks.